Welcome back to another episode of The Spawn. It feels like it's been so long since we've been here, but with all of the action that we had over the weekend and EU starting to get prepared for their own Stage 4, which will happen not this weekend, but the following weekend, uh, they wanted a week to really get some hard practice in. We might have a EU Spawn next week, depending on people's availability. But we are here. We've got Jingo, we've got Zim, and of course, you've got myself. And we had an exciting week. Obviously, over the weekend, we had Stage 4, which I'm going to throw it out there. I'm willing to bet every single person's bracket is wrong. Like any
For what,
any
stage four?
prediction brackets? Yeah, for Stage 4.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah,
J-
definitely for me at least.
Jingo, did you catch any Stage 4? I know you were probably pretty disappointed that you weren't playing in it, but
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely surprised by ARP winning that. I mean, look, they put in all the work, right? But like, still, I would have thought like teams like TSM or like Tribe would come out on top. Also NYSL, but definitely, I didn't see that TSM getting DQ coming.
yeah, that was that was definitely a big one. And
Yeah.
we're still waiting on more information from that,
Yeah,
but yeah, I definitely don't think anybody would have realistically had ARP aside from like your hardcore ARP or ARP themselves. But I do. ARP had such a good position to win, right? They come from a position where they normally play on a lot of lag, and they are a very good team still, right? You
hold
put
the
them in.
phone. Pause. The shit that they play 60 ping. Everybody plays 60 ping. I
Well,
don't want
right.
to hear all that
Well, but
shit.
then I'm saying you
Everybody
drop
plays
them
that
into a
shit.
team house in
The
Oklahoma where they're
only
getting
one,
5 ping.
the only guy who maybe has like some significant Wi-Fi like maybe Mago, because he's in Puerto Rico, or I'm pretty sure yeah, I think he's in Puerto Rico, so like he's got a little bit of an ocean separating everybody else, but but that's the only one. Like we average 60, 70 ping. I don't want to hear about that lag shit. That lag
Well,
shit
but
is
I'm saying
fraud.
they went and played in Oklahoma, right? They played basically just north of the server. They're a strong teamwork team, right? Like
Yeah, no,
they put a
they
lot of time in. Their rotations are solid, and then to put them in a position where they have a good condition to win even more of the
yeah.
gunfights, they looked better as the weekend went on, and huge congrats to them. Um, but yeah, obviously we're not gonna try to dwell on Stage 4 too long, guys. Everybody's been talking about it all week. Everybody knows what happened, so we'll just kind of breeze through it. Um, I guess a big question, Jingo. Obviously, you didn't compete in Stage 4. You now know all the teams going on towards Stage 5 for Worlds. Um, have you kept up at all on any of the other events? You know, your Chinese teams coming or anything like that, or are you just like, I'm doing school now?
I mean, I'm not gonna hold you. I've been doing homework and hopping on Warzone every single day. So like, I haven't like, I don't play the game as much anymore. I mean, obviously, I'll hop on for like a match or two, and like to keep my to make me not look as bad in the future. But like, still, I'm not really keeping up. Like, I don't pay attention. I barely hop on Twitter now, anyways. Like, a bunch of like shit is coming in for school. So yeah, gotta focus on that.
Gotcha. Zim, obviously you're paying attention to all those teams because you guys are still definitely in the running. Do you have a like particular region that you're worried about, or are you pretty much at this point waiting to see how Europe looks for Stage 4?
No, worried about people. Definitely not worried about anybody. I mean, again, well, you got to just kind of watch everybody, respect them from that arm's length distance. But again, we like all the speculation and stuff. It's really difficult to really know. We have to just kind of get to an international tournament, and just with how the game's played and stuff, the meta could evolve at any given moment. We could be playing on a totally different patch. We could be playing on a client that is not the patch that we've been playing on. We just really don't know. So I'm more worried with COD Mobile and how they deploy the actual tournament than I am worried about teams. But yeah, no, it's definitely going to be really fun to watch EU. I think a lot of teams are actually really interesting. BK Rog, just like kind of looking top to bottom, Jim squad, that looks like a really solid roster. Oxygen, even with the through all the drama and them actually getting one of their players removed and picking up another person. I think they picked up, who was it, Shark or somebody, or whoever it was that they picked up. Good
So
player.
I think Oxygen only lost out on their manager, which was leader or their like coach.
No, he was a player.
No, he was a player. He was a player.
He was a player. He was their captain or whatever. So, like, Jim's team looks good. I always expect him to do well in the majors. Oxygen looks good. Stamina looks. Stamina's kind of weird for me because of I think they're missing two
Yeah, they're
of their
missing
starters and
Inferno
they
and
picked up
Ghoul.
two other players. Those are two important teams to that roster that historically they've always been on that Kings slash Stamina lineup. So regardless, top to bottom, they've still got some names on that roster. You'll see them, I think, placed really well. And then Anarchy, like this new look Anarchy, coming off the win in Mobile Mayhem, looks really good. So that's my top four, I would say. Everybody else kind of looks a little abstract, but again, you could go into a tournament and literally anything can happen. So, um, will be interesting. Sylvia's
Yeah,
actually saying that Inferno's unbanned, so it's just Ghoul. So I mean
interesting.
that'll be a little bit better. If Inferno's actually allowed to play, he's definitely a really important player for their team, a good player. Uh, I think it's a lot easier to get away with trying to fix and plug and play one new player than it is multiple, like for us with space, kind of just throwing them in last second and stuff. So
Right.
I think that's doable, especially if you're a good team.
Well, it does look like chat is confirming that Inferno is unbanned, but Ghoul isn't, and Shift will be subbing in for him. And I know Stamina also picked up Slayer, who is another really good player from Europe. So that'll be some interesting changes. Definitely going to be a big one coming up again, not this weekend, but next weekend for who's going to grab that Stage 5 spot moving forward. And obviously that's going to be our last big stepping stone, if I remember correctly. I think Europe is the last team that we're going to see placements for. So that'll be a big deciding factor. Obviously, there's a lot of factors all around the world. China is a really strong search team or search region, but they're going to be playing on the kind of global rule set. So they will be playing at maybe a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to that, even if they are strong search teams because they have different items across the board banned, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I think if I remember correctly, they have like trophy systems banned or something, or like really like to us weird. So hoping we'll see some good action for Europe. Obviously, everybody's looking forward to Stage 5, but between now and then, we obviously have a really fantastic event going on. Not necessarily just North America, even though it is largely North America based, but that is going to be the girls only Mobile Mayhem tournament, which we obviously just concluded day 2 of. And there are some European girls playing, there are some Latin girls playing as well, and there are definitely some teams that are starting to really spread out from the pack a little bit. Looking at the likes of, your NYX, which is Aerith's team. ARP is looking really solid as well. Honeybees, which I think is largely a European girls team as well. So I've had fun casting it the past couple days. I know I've seen you guys both in chat. You guys have caught at least some of the games. So there's a lot of women players that are actually like mad cracked. Like Shorty is crazy with the DLQ. Obviously, pretty much everybody on Aerith's team is absolutely nuts as well. Honeybees are looking solid, like I mentioned, and it'll be some good action to fill between now and then. And then I believe we'll also have Mobile Mayhem, like the main series Mobile Mayhem, starting up again at the end of that. So a lot of things to look forward to. Jingo, what did you think about the girls event?
Definitely. I don't know why you didn't mention Lydia, but she's definitely up there. She's cracked. Like, I've seen her. What was it? Her game against was it against? I forgot what team it was. It was like 2 days ago though. But she dropped like I think like almost a 40, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like girls, I didn't think it was gonna be this entertaining. I'm not gonna lie, but I was like, damn, this is actually, in my opinion, more entertaining than our Mobile Mayhem, because our Mobile Mayhem we had like what, like two teams DQing, like
Yeah,
two
yeah,
teams
right. We
down,
had
like
four matches actually show up and show up on time was the other thing, right? Like they were
yeah.
absolutely killing it, getting in the lobbies and getting their stuff together, ready to go. So that was huge.
And then on top of that, we got like the the comparison between these two like events. Our Mobile Mayhem, like the skill gap is much larger than this Mobile Mayhem. Like for example, all the girls team are like, I'd say there's like at least four good teams in here, or maybe at least even five, right? But in our Mobile Mayhem, I only see like honestly like three. And like, every time you go against those three teams, it's boom, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Like it's always the same thing. So I find this Mobile Mayhem more interesting than ours, to be honest.
I
I mean,
definitely would have to agree with him there. Go ahead, Zim.
I think there's a couple reasons here. I mean, like there are no restrictions on the girls tournament, so you kind of get to see all of them. So uh, whether it's iPad, whether it's phone, age restrictions or not, or rather, since there is no age restriction, you literally, like I said, get to see everybody. And with the big prize pool, you get all the good girls teams to play. So it should look like every other girls league or every other girls tournament where you're kind of seeing the competition, and it has been like greatly entertaining. Um, and then you kind of cross over into just our standard mobile mayhem, and I don't want to say men's versus like women's uh, leagues because there are no gender restrictions on the main uh, broadcasts for the seasons for the stage 4 teams, but a lot of them tend to be guys, and with all the restrictions on those teams, they definitely have looked a lot worse. But no, just like you said, the women's event has been like phenomenal. I've actually like quite enjoyed watching a lot of it.
Well, I think a big thing here too is depending on, obviously it's going to require the girls teams to continue to show up, continue to have good performances, but Mobile Mayhem is one of the bigger tournaments that we see in COD Mobile, right? So maybe if more girls get out there and actually see these events going on, see that there's a lot of money on the line, see that teams are having fun, maybe you start seeing more talent come into the girls pool as well. Obviously, it's been a fiery cracker start off the bat here. We've got some really phenomenal teams like NYX. I completely biased opinion at this point, but like I've got them to win the whole thing. But I mean, on Tuesday they absolutely stomped AR, and then AR came in today against Zygnus and looked really solid. So um, definitely have some good teams. I don't think if you lose to NYX, you take it as too big of an L because, again, they have stage 4 competitors on their team with the likes of Brixta from BK Rog, as well as you guys obviously mentioned Lydia from formerly XOXO, now playing for Cold Esports, which is Jim's team. So I'm hyped for it. I had a lot of fun casting the past couple days. Obviously, Zim, you and I got to cast on Tuesday. That was a good time. And getting to work with Beef Mommy, I mean, I cannot complain. Like, this is an absolutely awesome experience that I've had, a big, great opportunity I've been able to have for myself as well. So, not only are there good games, I've had fantastic talent to work with along the way as well.
We're actually in a B tier tournament now, according to the Liquidpedias, which is like not anything to slouch at all. And you kind of think about where we started back when we were the OCS, the Omen Challenger Series, and all the support we've had up to now, and you kind of look at how we've expanded from just COD Mobile into different games like Free Fire, into different games like the BR or whatever other titles that we're actually in right now, and then we're also taking the opportunities to make the feeder leagues and to run those events with our partners and to actually have different events like the female events and stuff, and put up like prize pools that are comparable, if not like outright topping what we were doing in the past for other like streamlined things like Mobile Mayhem just as a whole is doing like nuts things in the community right now, and only with more time, I think it's very likely that Mobile Mayhem grows into a point where A tier, S tier, maybe in the years that come, just off prize pool, but lots of ambition, and I'm really happy to kind of see it and be a part of it.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey, and obviously, Jingo, you're a pretty consistent competitor in Mobile Mayhem. We've seen you on a ton of teams, obviously, most recently AR and Explicit, so you are a player that's been there in that upper tier of competition. And, chat kind of gave me some shit today, right? Like, I was sitting there saying that NYX and maybe even a couple of the other teams are realistically, maybe more talented than some of the teams that we saw in the last Mobile Mayhem. You look at the likes of, your Fuses, your Strike Zone never really showed up. I mean, even looking at, some of the stuff that happened in Masters in Stage 3, right? I mean, there's some teams that I don't think are as good as NYX. Now, granted, again, that goes back to what Zim mentioned in the no restrictions. There's not an age restriction. There's not a there's not a device restriction. But maybe as time goes on, maybe if the girls scene continues to grow, maybe they do get to that point. Maybe we do have more girl competitors that play on phone and come through and pick themselves up spots on some of the like kind of main league teams for Mobile Mayhem or even Masters. So
Yeah, definitely. I want to see like more like girls team stepping into like the other side of Mobile Mayhem. Right. I don't know if that's gonna be a thing in the future, but like just like a team full of girls just entering like teams like NYX. NYX, I'd say like is probably the top team on the girls league, right? So if they enter and they play in like, I'd say they're better. No offense to anyone on these teams, but I think they're better than Fuse and like Strike Zone, right? Like, come on, let's be honest. Like, I've played against Fuse and Strike Zone, and I think NYX like they would definitely put up more of a fight. And also ARP Celeste, that team too.
I mean, not too long ago, I hate to kind of put it out there on Broad Street, but like not too long ago, I'd say as recent as a month or two, I watched or I just like look at the recent games. I don't think there was a stream. Actually, there might have been a stream. Aerith broadcasted it right before Stage 4, where Primal scrimmed her team, Angels or Knicks, whatever it was at the time, and they beat the living shit out of Primal like 8, 9 games in a row. At like
Oh, I think I saw that. I saw that.
like big ups to them for not leaving and shit, but like that was looking rough, and obviously the people were clowning them and stuff. But I mean, there's lots of interesting stuff that I think that we could do, or that the league could do, or the tournament series, whatever you want to call the owner, Sylvia could do with this tournament in particular, because although she's managed to get COD Mobile to license Mobile Mayhem, this is still an event that she can do literally whatever the hell she wants with it. So considering that the main league is kind of taking a backseat, and you've actually seen LATAM kind of look like the premier the premier division for Mobile Mayhem, with the viewership, with the way that the teams play over there, and North America's taken that step back just because of how the scene is right now for NA. I think that if I was Sylvia, I would say, hey, the winner of this tournament, I'd invite them to the league, and I'd see if I sit with the rest of the other teams and maybe compromise with them, or just say, hey, Knicks, here's an invitation to the league. Can you meet the requirements? Can you field a phone team? I wouldn't even say like age restriction. I'd just say, hey, can you field a phone team? And if they can, throw them in the league and just watch them beat the shit out of this out of some of these teams. And it would be really interesting. You get the viewership from the girls scene that has honestly been very high just from the last couple days. What were we averaging concurrently? Like 200 plus? There were days
on
there were
Tuesday, I
days in
think.
Mobile Mayhem.
Well, yeah, on
Go
Tuesday I
ahead.
think we were at like I think if I remember my
We were
analytics, it was
consistently 250.
yeah like
Yeah,
274 I think was the average with a peak of like 320 or something.
that's a lot of viewership for I don't want to say for any event. That's a lot of viewership, and it was consistent. It was every single match. It didn't matter who was playing. They were all watching. That's a lot more viewership, quite honestly, than some of the regular season days that we were getting for the regular NA games.
It was more
Where
than
you're,
playoffs. It was more than
it
playoffs.
was definitely more than playoffs. I
Yeah.
remember tuning into your stream, and we're sitting at like 50, 60. Nobody wanted to watch some of the bums playing in NA, and a lot of people were watching these girls events. So shit, invite them to the league. Whoever wins this event. It doesn't have to be NYX. Who knows who's gonna win? But if NYX continues to dominate and they come away with the girls title, give them a special invite slot and start to mix together the different platforms as well. Maybe we see, or maybe we can kind of see Latin America and NA cross into each other a little bit. Like there's so much stuff that we could do, uh, and just kind of boom the viewership and distribute it amongst each other, and that would be really exciting just for the diversity of it. And it's something like unique that I think you really kind of only see in COD Mobile right now. I can't think of an esport, certainly not console. It's dominated uh, by males, so you don't see the female teams kind of get that shine. I haven't seen League of Legends kind of do anything like this. I haven't seen Rocket League or Gears of War or anything. So it's super unique opportunities right now for mobile that, if done correctly, it could actually be really fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And it already sounds like we have some pretty exciting things going on for the next Mobile Mayhem. I think I remember Sylvia in chat when one of the days that we had. I don't remember if it was a spawn or if it was just on one of my personal broadcasts, but I believe Seminole is going to be an invited team for the next Mobile Mayhem, with the exception of
If
Slothy, who's banned.
dude, if next season we just kind of throw a monkey wrench in it and say, hey, let's have a really competitive season, but let's kind of try to stick to a little bit of the guidelines. Have one underage team with 17 plus, 16 plus, whatever it is the restriction you want to be.
Which I
Put
think was going to be the
a
Seminole
special
invite.
thing at, well, it doesn't have to be seminal. It can just be a collection of players that fit whatever the underage restriction would be, 17, 16, whatever. It doesn't have to be seminal, but whomever, a collection of those kinds of players. Throw in a girls team, throw in an underage team, throw in a LATAM team, and then fucking invite the rest, and just see. That would be nuts. I would actually like pay to watch that, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
I,
with the lack of competition in Jingo, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you probably will have
nah, you
something to
good, you
say
good.
about this point. With the lack of competition that we had in the last Mobile Mayhem, I definitely see several of these teams being much more worthy of picking up that spot. I mean, again, not that Strike Zone necessarily had bad players or anything, but they definitely had an issue throwing up. Not that I think Primal is bad or anything. You know, again, I'm a huge Meralto fan, right? I'm always wishing the best for Meralto, but let's face it, couldn't field a team that would show up with five, and quite often just got absolutely smoked, and people didn't want to show up and see that. So there's definitely a big opportunity where, you know, Jingo, I feel like, you know, bringing Seminole in, bringing, you know, possibly in a LATAM team, a girls team, all of that. I feel like that brings a lot more excitement to the NA scene. I feel like that brings the teams that are wanting to practice and get ready for Worlds, you know, stage five. I feel like they would much rather be scrimming again or getting tournament games against Seminole, against NYX, and all of the likes. So
Yeah, definitely. I don't feel like it's
If they were in the league, I think a lot of teams would scrim a girls team.
yeah. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think it's a problem of like the skill gap. I think it's the problem of like them not being determined or like dedicated to the game anymore. Like you've seen players on Primal. I mean, like obviously everyone has seen, you know, Voki and XCal, like they don't give a shit about the game anymore. Right? Like they didn't even show up for champs. Who else? Like Strike Zone completely. I think every single player on Strike Zone just like completely quit the game. So like, you know, there's that. They just wanna play the game for fun. They don't even care about it anymore. So I feel like, you know, a team like Seminole who's like playing like every single day, and like I've seen them on for scrims, and definitely girls team like they've been playing a lot too. So I'm like, you know, that will actually spice things up and will keep it, you know, not as boring, because when teams go up against like Primal, like for example, Primal versus NYSL, like come on now, let's be honest, everyone already knows the outcome. They don't even need to watch that. Same thing for like, you know, uh Primal against any other team. To be honest, like I think what place was Primal? Like when was that? Like last, right?
yeah,
Besides like the two teams that
yeah, I
forfeit.
think they
Yeah.
came in dead last. They just forfeited. So
Who would you be getting rid of? Like Strike Zone, who gives a shit? Fucking Mafia X, who gives a shit? F4, who gives a flying shit about that? Like who cares? Shred it.
to be
Like
fair, the only good
a
players
lot.
from F4 are, I think, playing on Primal now. Like Ingenic is a great search player, and he's playing with Primal now. So
Also, like you
F4 is
don't
like
lose
out.
anything. It's
You
not.
know.
Yeah, it's like you don't lose anything. The bottom in NA's Mobile Mayhem at least was just really uninteresting. So why not
Exactly.
just monkey wrench it? Who cares?
And like it was so down bad to one of the days where there was only two matches played, and it was a regular
Hmm.
season. But there was only two matches, and everyone was like, "Yo, what the
I think
fuck?
that
Like
was
it
the.
already ended."
I think that was like a day or two before the quarterfinals as well. It was just like just didn't show up, and you know that's the case. And you know, unfortunately, you know, again, like I said, I'm a huge Meralta fan, right? I hope he finds a team that is actually able to compete, because you know he went from being a runner-up in stage 4 of last year to not even having a team that showed up this year. They just had to forfeit. Like, I don't like to talk a lot of shit about people, but like XCal is just a garbage piece of shit human, right? Like that is everybody's obviously seen all of the stuff on Twitter, right? Like that is just an absolute dickhead move to just be like, you know what? Stop rushing me. I'm not playing tomorrow, right? Like who does that? There was so much on the line just for him to just absolutely leave them hanging and dry just so he could get a phone. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, and like there was like so many other players that also wanted to play. So like he should have said it sooner, and someone could have replaced him. But he just wanted the free phone and dipped. So there's that.
I mean, yeah, you can put blame on him to an extent, but like nobody really talks about the fact that Primal begged and other teams begged for roster changes, and they were not the admins, the esports engine admins. They were not at all specific with what the guidelines were for a change. I remember I asked myself in a ticket because they said that this year was more strict than last year. Last year was easy. It was kind of like you were just like, "Hey, uh, can I have a change?" And they were like, "Who do you want?" And we were like, "So and so." And they were like, "Okay." And there was no really application process. It came back in a couple days. It was easy. This year they were like, "Yeah, it's more strict." And we were like, "Okay, what are the guidelines?" And then they literally just copy pasted like a clause from the terms of service, and we were like, okay, well this, thanks for sending that, but this doesn't really, what are extenuating circumstances? And then they were like, the exact response to that was, that's for Activision to decide. So it's really tough for a team to really know if they're doing right or wrong by what it is that whatever the hell the guidelines are. And then when you have a team like Prime was like, I know for a fact Moralto was asking for changes for at least a week leading into the tournament, and as extenuating as it could have possibly been, he had proof, several images of proof, clearly showing that the player wasn't going to play, that two of them weren't going to play, that one was going to just straight up outright throw the matches if he did play. Like that's as extenuating as you can possibly get. And the other thing that I kind of wonder is like, I wonder if those guys get money because I'm pretty sure the prize claims are done as as groups. And if they're done as groups or even individually, do they forfeit that prize pool? Do they just get it because they're included on the roster? What's the kind of guidelines for that? And they haven't been clear on answering all those questions either. So I don't know. I think next year they need to get rid of the company or whomever the hell is doing the admin and bullshit and just find some new people. Find some people that are actually going to take the time and try to fight for some of these teams if they are actually giving you a lot of information. But
I
until
mean,
we get that, I think this is going to be a recurring problem that happens year after year.
even back further than that. All right, Jingo, we got you. Even back further than that, like the way they handled stage 3 after Masters was just flat out like, who the hell made this decision, right? You had Masters, you had teams compete through there and come up to a top 8 or whatever that finished, right? Why did those teams not all get a seed for stage 3, where it could have been divided and ran through? Because Arsenal was looking like a really, really strong team. Tribe was obviously, they bounced out of their win in Masters. NYSL was looking really good. You all got flopped right into the same portion of the bracket for stage 3. We ended up having teams that had absolutely no right to go to stage 4 make it because, again, there was no seeding done prior to the tournament based off of Masters performance. And that resulted in AR not making it because obviously they were in a bracket with you and Tribes. Someone had to move on and someone had to not. And then we had a team, Destiny Official Gaming, make it into stage 4 and then not even show up. So you have a team of nobodies who played through and then didn't show up, got their phones or whatever little bit of prize money they got or whatever it may be, instead of a team that was there dedicated, putting the work in, putting the time in to play in their place. Like, you take out Destiny Official Gaming and you throw in Arsenal in their spot, stage 4, granted it still maybe ends the exact same way. I think you have way more exciting matches in there. Day 1 ended up getting cut short for, well, one, the fact that we didn't have their matches to spectate in the first place, but then also obviously the TSM disqualification. They cut the stream pretty short there. So um, I don't know. I feel like since Masters, the overall tournament director for NA just absolutely, well, not even NA. Just they pretty much did the same thing in a couple regions where they just
Yeah, it's
absolutely
the
dropped
same
the
people.
ball by not paying any attention at all to what was happening in the community.
I think there's lots of ways for you to be creative, just like with your community and the connections you choose to make with your community as well. Like you licensed Mobile Mayhem as a league or whatever it is that you want to classify Mobile Mayhem as. You license them as a competition for your game. So why not include Mobile Mayhem a little bit in the way that you kind of work with teams? Like, what's stopping COD Mobile from maybe not giving Mobile Mayhem a spot or something like that in a tournament, but giving them extra consideration when you're kind of putting together brackets or you're putting together like qualifying things, when you're putting together your extra events like Masters and stuff. What if COD Mobile was to really dive into and invest in their partnership with Mobile Mayhem and say, hey, from now on, maybe deep in the future, the winner of Mobile Mayhem gets a spot in like one of the qualifier tournaments. Maybe they get a spot in stage 4. Maybe they get a spot in a Masters. Maybe they get a spot in something that comes before a seeding for a world championship. Then that incentivizes teams to really participate in something like Mobile Mayhem through an entire year where you largely have nothing. You have large amounts of time where you're literally doing nothing and teams are waiting around for an Activision event, but they're playing in things like Mobile Mayhem all the time. Uh, but it I don't want to say it means nothing, but it just means nothing to a lot of teams. It's a prize pool and that's it. It's just another event. What if they were to invest that kind of time and really solidify that as a true partnership? I think that would be really cool, and you'd kind of see that a team like Arsenal, they might end up fucking around and winning a Mobile Mayhem season, uh, and then they don't have to worry about something as weird as game battles. Now, I get game battles has been around for a really long time. I get MLG has been like a staple in Call of Duty and kind of how that's grown. But the way that those bracket systems work right now, they're super outdated. They're randomly generated. I don't even think they can seed if they wanted to. There's just no logistics behind it, and it kind of bit a lot of teams in the butt, and that kind of sucks.
In my opinion, I don't even think it was randomly generated. Like, come on now, like NA, you got Tribe and NYCell. On EU, you got Stamina and Nova. Like, what are the odds? Like, those two top teams in both regions facing each other on the first round. I
Well,
don't
then
think
you
that's
guys stuck in that bracket with them, right? Like, you guys really drew the short end of the stick there, bud.
I mean, to be honest, I guess, but like we were up against NYSL 2-0, but then my team
Right.
decided, let's just fucking throw these next 3 games, and so they did that, and then we lost, and I was just in shock. I was like, okay, I wasn't as depressed as all the other guys who apparently quit the game, and I was like, calm the fuck down. But like, they lost, we got reverse swept, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll take that, GG's.
Well,
But
that's kind of what I was saying when you were
yeah,
gone for a minute there was, someone had to win and someone had to lose, right? Like, no matter who lost that
yeah,
matchup,
exactly.
you guys were up over NYSL. Someone who was very, very deserving of a stage 4 spot was taken possibly an L there, and unfortunately it happened to you guys. And, again, if game battles, as Zim said, maybe they don't have the power to do it over there. Maybe that's just the way their brackets are designed to work. They might not even be able to seed it. But you take you guys and you get seeded from like a Masters performance, and now boom, there's 8 sections of the bracket for stage 3, and each of the competitors from Masters is in one of those brackets. You probably end up with a repeat of Masters, but it's you don't take a team that was like actually looking really good, looking like they could be a real contender for a world spot, and screw them over to have a team that didn't even show up. That was one of the things I mentioned. You guys were there. You were putting the time in. You were putting the work in. You guys showed up for all of your matches and were putting your best foot forward. And then Destiny Official Gaming, boom, stage 4 starts. I don't know. They got their phones, ran with them or whatever. I know they're supposed to return them, but I mean, at this point, how much more is it going
Yeah.
to cost Activision or Sony to track those phones down than to just take it as an L, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I don't know.
on top of that, like some teams are talking mad shit, right? They're like, "Oh, you guys didn't even play stage 4." Like I'm like, bro, you guys aren't good. You guys just got lucky seedings, right? Like you guys aren't good. We beat you guys all the time, scrims, tournaments, you name it. All right, you just made it to champs. All right, and I'm not gonna name any names. People already know who. I mean, they talk their shit, and okay, but like then again, they got lucky seedings. They got easy brackets. Then you give us both Tribe and NYSL, like NYSL in the winners bracket and then Tribe in the losers bracket. Like, come on now, you're facing us against like top 2 NA, and it's like, yeah, you guys just got lucky. I don't know why you guys are talking mad shit for.
Yeah, meanwhile, one part of that bracket is Destiny Official versus like Barbecue Gamers or whatever the hell their name was.
Exactly.
Like, just absolutely nobody's who just had a miracle bracket and then didn't even show up. Like, again, I will absolutely lay the line down for Bad Batch before I defend Destiny Official Gaming, right? Like Bad Batch, they competed on iPad to place, they went into Masters, but they showed up every day and took their ass whooping on stream and got nuked 3 times. But those motherfuckers showed up. You know, they showed up, and I got to give them absolute props for that. But again, hopefully down the road things will be a little bit better managed on that side of things. Again, all of your competition that you're going to have between now and Worlds, this is going to be one of the best places to find it, right? You follow me, follow Bobby. You're going to have Mobile Mayhem. We're going to have the girls event going on right now. There's a bunch of really, really awesome teams to watch there. We'll obviously have the fall season of Mobile Mayhem is going to happen um, uh, before Worlds. So make sure you stick around for that competition. You guys will get to see some of the talent that gets developed on some of those rosters. Obviously, the big three we're looking at right now is going to be your ARP, your NYSL, and your Tribe. And again, it's going to be a long waiting period. It's not until December that Worlds is anticipated to be. I don't think there's like an official date yet, but that's what they're speculating.
Was confirmed, I think, by some Chinese news outlets. I don't think there are dates yet, nowhere that I've seen, but they did confirm a December schedule. And if you look at the Liquipedia for Champs, it also shows posted a December schedule too. So we don't know when in December. It could be day 1 December, because the rumor before that was November 30th. Around there, you'd start to see the start of the tournament. So right now, maybe early December. I know last year they didn't want it running into the holiday season. So if that's a guide for this year, I would guess before the holidays, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm hoping they do a better job with like seeding or proper placement or figure out some way to do it, because it's hard to like give a seed, but as you have all these different regions going into Worlds, right? You've got 3 from NA. I mean, is it straight hard random going to be generated, or are we gonna have the NA teams spaced out against a couple stages of the bracket? Like, what if World starts day 1, boom, it's Tribe versus Mayhem, or
I
look
think
at
that
look at EU. It's like, what if you have Nova versus Anarchy? Assuming Anarchy makes it, right? But it's like, everybody's watching that for that international competition, right? Nobody wants to see 2 European teams fighting to knock each other out on day 1.
I think the best way that they should kind of do it, they should take some serious consideration from how the old champs tournaments were done before the Pro League, the CDL, where they had a bunch of different pool play. Like, I actually talked about this with the players, but I think the best way for them to do it, if it's 16 teams, do 4 pools of 4, and spread the regions out in different pools. That makes it really interesting, because then you kind of have storylines and talking points about who the shitty pools are and who the death pools are. That's always really fun. That's always really cool. Um, do the 4 pools of 4. Whether you want to take the top 3 from each pool and then play it out in a pool play, eliminate the bottom, or the top 2, however it is you want to do it. But if there is no pool play for champs, that would be fucking nuts. There's no way that you can just throw those teams in and just throw them in a bracket without any kind of seeding. You have to have some kind of like reference point from something that happens before you throw in uh, whether it's double limb or single limb for that much money. Please, 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 COD Mobile, do some kind of fucking pool play. Make it super traditional, and then from that pool play, throw them in a bracket, double a limb, and then fucking there you go. There's your tournament, and then whoever wins wins. But you're gonna have to really give these opportunities to these teams to show that if they have a shitty pool play, or if they have a shitty whatever starts of the tournament, that it's not the end of the world. Uh, if you just throw them in a straight up tournament to begin with, I know as much as anybody else that 1 round is sometimes it's super fluky. It's 2 rounds, sometimes it's super fluky. But if you give teams the pool play, you give teams that stage of the tournament, and then they get into a bracket where they can actually play it out, it ends up being really interesting. I think the best one that it was done, I look back at COD champs for Ghosts. where they had fucking a million fucking pools. They had all the way A through H, and it was 4 teams in each pool. And then from that pool play, they eliminated 2 teams from each pool, and they threw it into a double elim bracket then, and it was huge. It was a huge tournament. Uh, but that's the best way that I think it's ever been done. And for something like this, where you kind of follow the line of where COD has been historically, that would be really cool. But that's my opinion. Pool play would be awesome.
Yeah, it does look like Jingo had to take off. We might grab one person from the girls event to come through and join us here towards the end. If I can get a graphic modification made real quick, I'm working on it. But
Yeah, that master Swiss style shit is horrible. I don't know who in the hell was like Swiss style, but that shit is balls. I don't care what anybody says. Horrible. Why
yeah,
would you ever
you're
do Swiss
absolutely
style
right.
for a
And
tournament like that? Like, I I would have rathered a single elim tournament than a Swiss style. Like, what was the point of the Swiss style? What was the point of that?
yeah, I mean it's hard to say, right? Like me and you can look back to, for example, like Vainglory Worlds is one that um, obviously we had like that really nasty death bracket with like TSM, Cloud9,
That was
and
all
who was
pool
it?
play.
Rox Armada. Yeah, I mean,
That's what made it all fun. That's exactly what made it fun. Is that sometimes you just get one of those fucking super brawlic ass pools and you're like, holy shit, all those teams are in the you're like, oh my god, and then it makes it that much more interesting, to watch it and stuff because you're invested at that point in all stages of the tournament. You're
right.
invested in the pool play, you're invested in the early seeding of the bracket, you're invested all the way up to your favorite team gets eliminated and then you pick a new team to root for. You see different teams evolve and you kind of you have these like crowd champions and stuff where it's like you don't get that at all from a Swiss style, especially when every single team in the tournament is just not up to snuff with each other. Eventually, in a Swiss style, you just run out of good matches, and you have to have a broadcast. So if your bottom line for a broadcast is we need to fill 2-3 hours, which it kind of feels like is what the standard broadcast is for a competition. Once you get to day two, once you get to day three, you're just watching straight up shitty teams smoke on shitty teams. Like deadass Masters, the best fucking match that was probably never broadcasted was Bad Batch versus fucking who, fucking who Prime Esports. Like that match, quite honestly, I ended up being so like crackhead deprivant of good games that I thought that was like wow interesting. Those two teams are so bad that they're actually matching up against each other. That might have been like fucking insane. And we never even got to see that. And that's what we kind of had to watch. Everything else was just good teams, straight up dismantling teams and stuff. You just don't get that out of North American COD Mobile right now. And I don't think you get it out of any region's COD Mobile. Like Garena maybe. Like I just don't know enough about Garena. Maybe Beef Mommy can talk about it. Europe maybe, but I look at European stage 4, but you still see some of those bottom tier teams is like who gives a shit? India definitely sucked. Like their tournament was bad. They had some really top end teams come out of it, but the rest of it was so bad. Like Japan, like it was boring. I didn't find anything interesting about it. So they gotta figure it out. But I don't know. That Swiss style shit is just not it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely again, there's an issue with largely the person organizing the tournaments for COD Mobile, right? On their end of things. Like I actually feel like you look at Mobile Mayhem and specifically like the girls event today, like everything went like straight through without a hitch. Everybody was in their right matches. You look at COD Mobile and it wasn't just NA that had teams get totally screwed out of spots, right? I mean, LATAM obviously had some issues. I know South America in general had some issues. EU has obviously been kind of a weird shit show over there, just with, this is just my personal opinion. Don't take this as anything to do with like actually anything COD Mobile has said or hasn't said, but it felt like with the whole stamina oxygen shit that happened, right? It felt like they jumped the gun on one thing. I'm sure there was an investigation to some degree, and there's definitely people to blame on both sides of the aisle. But I mean, they jumped real hard on one team and another team that was literally in the exact same position, right? Like the information against Leader from Oxygen was also there for the exact same thing, if not even more provable. And they never said anything about that, right? That was Oxygen that dropped that player, but Leader is not technically banned from Stage 4. So I feel like across the board, there has just been some pretty wild mismanagement there.
I think that we're just not going to get straight up honest answers out of what happened with Truly and any of the other crazy things that are happening right now on the scene, but I think that quite honestly, that's just not the thing that needs to be kind of addressed first. Like, it would be really nice if they came out the woodwork and they started giving us some solid direction for stuff that we've been asking for, but as far as that stuff is concerned, like it definitely is interesting. I find it all the more interesting that just with the teams that are allowed to play and how they determine what region gets how many spots and all this stuff. I, I think about Australia and I think about that Mind Freak team that won their region's tournament 3 times in a row and they just got shafted out of the entire world championship. Like we're still seeing teams that are missing opportunity, and for whatever reason that may be, we don't really get that. So I think that they improve every single year, but I wish that they would kind of consult with some of the community heads and really try to figure out what's best. Definitely involve them a little bit more in the planning process year after year, but I just don't know if we'll get that, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's I've obviously done a lot of COD Mobile tournaments, right? Like I lost my job a couple months ago due to some slumlord landlord shit, which was a bit unfortunate. And I've spent all of my time pretty much diving around doing community tournaments here and there, doing Mobile Mayhem every opportunity that comes up. Obviously, I've worked a lot with Meeseeks, and I gotta say, anything that I don't want to say anything because there are other good ones out there too, but like for the most part, my experience with Mobile Mayhem has just been incredibly solid, right? But you know, between Sylvia, the admins that they have at Mobile Mayhem as well, like everything pretty much goes off without a hitch on the tournament side of things. I feel like COD Mobile should be reaching out to maybe get some help on the production aspect side because that has been a pretty big miss in my part. You know, again. Like you were mentioning, Mind Freak from OCE. We had My Darling on that one week, and uh, obviously they had events going on where it was looking like they should have a spot, and then just had COD come in and say, hey, no spot for you, which was
You're not
kind
a
of
region.
yeah, right. But again, I feel like um, they could definitely use a helping hand in the tournament planning aspect. Again, that was one of the things I obviously ragged on a bit with the whole not seeding tournaments or teams in stage 3 and things like that. But I mean, as far as like the communication goes, right? Like, there's Activision's a pretty big company. They've got on the backside of things, they've obviously got all their other lawsuits and stuff going on at Blizzard Activision, right? Like that's a reality. That stuff's happening, okay? They've got their hands tied with stuff there. But I just in general don't think we will get a official word on what happened with Truly, right? And a lot of that is probably going to be due revolving around the whole TSM pickup right before this happened. I feel like CoDM just said that they're DQ'd. They're probably going to sweep the reason under the rug and just not say anything on it, just because they don't want to hurt TSM's reputation of, hey, TSM came in and picked up a hacker team, right? Or whatever,
Oh, yeah,
whatever
man.
the reason may be. I'm not saying
TSM,
they hacked, but
TSM is throwing a fat ass bag at them to shut
to
the fuck
disappear,
up.
yeah.
To shut the fuck up. You are, man. I'd be. Ain't no way you can't think about that. They're throwing a bag to fucking shut them up. That's what I would do if I was TSM. No shame there. I don't give a single shit. I'd throw all the cash if I had it. Damn, I'd throw that cash. But no, man. I like you're saying, like it just kind of seems like at every point this year, it hasn't been failure, but it's been like really short falling. Like even the fact that we've played how many majors now in a row on clients that are just not up to date. Like even that is fucking nuts. And then I think back to like our experience with Vainglory. That tournament client was never fucked up. Like that shit ran. It ran good. They talked to the teams. They pretty much got all the stuff sorted out with those guys. Like, how can they do it at a smaller level and maintain it and have it run perfectly fine, but we can't do it as a how much money does COD Mobile make a year?
Compared to Super Evil Megacorp.
Is it's millions upon millions, maybe billions of dollars more than SCMC did, and they could run a perfectly good tournament client that was very well supported and all that stuff. It's like that shit just doesn't make sense to me at all. If we have to play another major, if the World Championship is not on a reasonably updated patch with reasonably up to date things, at the very least, give us all the content, because even in stage 4, they updated the client. It was the balancing, but half the fucking content wasn't even in the game. You couldn't use kinetic armor. You couldn't use some of the other mechanics that were in the new patch. It's half done, and it's just not where it needs to be. So it sucks.
I think in general too, they probably should have reached out and communicated with the teams, because obviously the players are all playing on the patch, right? Like, I'm glad it got updated, right? I was so tilted during Masters watching week after week of playing 3-month-old update.
We rioted. It's because we rioted, and then they gave us half a client. Like, we asked them, hey, is this updated? Initially they said no, it would be on the previous patch. Then halfway into it, they were like, never mind, they updated it. And then we asked, okay, is all the content going to be available? And they said yes. Then we hopped onto the game and we were like, hey, like, half the content here says coming soon. Like, it's in the game, it's just not allowed. You're not allowed to use it. And we're like, the fuck? Are we supposed to, like, buy battle passes on the fucking tournament client? You can't even do that. So it just doesn't make sense. And I asked the admins again, and they're like, we don't know. That's up to Activision. What the fuck, Activision? Like, come on, man.
Well, I mean, in general too. Like, I feel like stage 4 would have been way more exciting if they talked with the teams and like set down a rule set on like weapons to be banned, right? Like, if they would have reached out and talked to the teams and been like, hey, is there anything broken that we just shouldn't have on stream? Fucking the shorty would not have happened, right? Like,
They don't even have to do that. Dude, they don't even have to do that. Put literally fucking everything on a poll. Everything. Every weapon, every attachment, every fucking utility, every operator, everything. Put it on a poll, yes or no. And then just take the fucking results of the poll. That's your rule set.
well, that's what I'm saying, right?
Boom.
Like, if they would have got any of that information from the people that actually play the fucking game instead of just getting paid to run the tournament, like, we could have had a much more interest. I think at one point I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna add up all of the kills across the entire stage 4 weekend, and I want to find out what fucking percentage of them was shorty, because I am so sick and tired of seeing that damn gun, dude. Like,
the final, I can tell you right now, the final was a fat majority
dude,
of
the
fucking.
final, I never saw another gun in Pepe's hand, dude. It was
I'd
shorty.
say maybe 30 or 40% of the kills, like generously, 30 or 40% of the kills at the very least were shorty kills. And it's rough because you see it a little bit in the girls tournament, but it's very intuitive what some of them are doing. They're banning kinetic armor or they're using kinetic armor, and that's stuff that teams were doing, practicing before stage 4. You can't one-shot kinetic armor. You can't.
Right.
It doesn't protect you from explosives, but it just doesn't, and it doesn't protect your face. But people aren't getting shorty headshots. They're just straight up annihilating your torso. You pop a kinetic armor in the right place, you're not getting one-shotted. And then you go back and you look at those finals matches, Crossfire especially, where they're sitting in P1. They're sitting on that one dumpster that they just don't move from. What's stopping teams from popping a kinetic, coming around that corner and killing that guy? And that guy can't do anything. Like he can't do anything against that. And then you have that problem's just not a problem anymore. But again, they don't have that shit in the game. It is a problem, and it doesn't incentivize teams at all to change anything that they're doing. Like, everybody's like, career saver this, career saver that. If it's the meta, it's the meta. Use it by all means. ARP played and they won because they were better at what the circumstances said they needed to be good at. And if that's the shorty, that's the shorty. Fucking power to them. They used it better than we did. And that's just what it is. But it didn't have to be that way if all the shit was up to date, you know? So
Right.
it is what it is. I think that the community kind of needs to wrap around a little bit with that too, and stop saying career saver, career saver, career saver, because at the end of the day, it's the meta for a
It's
reason,
a
and
yeah, it's a update, right? It's
it's an
gonna.
update. It's not anybody's fault that this shit is absolutely broken. I read it in the chat one time with Little B. We were watching it back, I think with Bobby, and somebody was like, this word for word what this guy said. I don't remember his name, but he was like, respect to Little B for not using the shorty.
Yeah, I saw that. I
Cool.
saw that.
And then like 5 seconds later, but he's stupid.
Yeah,
like,
but he's stupid
like
for not using the shorty.
but he's stupid for not using. It's like it just doesn't make any sense. But that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like you're not gonna get away with not using what the best shit is. You know, you gotta use it. So it sucks that it kind of is what it
Well,
is. But
especially when it's as decisive as the shorty, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's always been metas where there's a strong gun, right? But
yeah.
there is other options. Like right now, the Holger is strong. Holger is good at everything. But the MX9 is a viable submachine gun, right? It is a good gun. But if you look at the current meta with the shorty in it, why the fuck are you gonna have an MX9 in hand and round a corner into a shorty when you could have just camped the angle on a Holger instead, right? Like,
E- even the
just
current meta, even the current meta is not like the worst that it's ever. Like you said, there are options, you know, like there just are. We haven't been in a one straight up one weapon meta in a while. I think the only true one weapon meta was like the the cordite. Like, can you remember back to the were you even casting back when the cordite was fucking absolutely nuts? It was a sniper
I
rifle. It was a
think
sub,
the
but it was
first
an AR, but it was also a sniper rifle, but it was also a shotgun. You could hip fire across the fucking map and knock people off head glitches. Like, it was nuts.
I
And
think the
then
first day I casted Mobile Mayhem was like the day before the Cordite nerf came
the
through.
cordite and like even the cordite, it was like surprisingly balanced. Like, it was a one weapon meta, but everybody had access to it, and it was really good for everybody. Like, shortly after that, you had the HG40. It wasn't quite as big as the cordite meta, but another kind of one weapon meta. But people use other shit. People talk about the mana war and stuff, but like everybody could use it. And then we had weapon bans at the time, so if you didn't want to use it or you didn't want to play against it, get rid of it. There's just so much shit that they fall short on. What the admins do. Like, who in the fuck? Nobody was doing operator bans, and then they just release a rule set and they're like, ban an operator, and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, give us a ban on
Ban an
guns.
operator?
Yeah.
Ban a weapon. Take the ban the Holger. Ban the. You know how much more interesting every single patch was if you didn't have to ban a fucking operator. Instead, give us a list of operators like you do right now that people find are fucking atrocious, or just fucking make it so that everybody has to use a specific one, like every fucking competitive COD title ever that had operators. So you're not gonna have to deal with 5 of anything. Give them a weapon ban so the meta so you can kind of decide what the meta is for any certain match, for any certain tournament, for any style that you want to play or whatever, and then throw them into a map pool, and then boom, you have something so much more flexible, so much more entertaining. But they're like, nah, everybody can use the same operator, ban one. The fuck, it makes no sense. They've fallen so short all year. They definitely should take a really long, hard look at everything at the end of this year and talk to some fucking community people and then get the teams that matter in a fucking server, make them vote on shit, and then that's it. Call it a wrap and do your scene from there. But shit sucks right now. No lie.
Yeah. I mean, if they take any bit of advice, right? Like I would love to see a weapon ban going into Worlds. I know they're probably not going to. Who the hell am I? They don't give a fuck, but I
But dude,
it gives you that option of being able to just flat take out something that's broken, right? Like imagine if we would have had one weapon ban for each team over stage 4 that just happened over the weekend, right? One of them's going to be the Holger, one of them's going to be the Shorty. How much does the meta open at that point with those two guns out?
yeah,
MX9
who knows?
MX9 probably top of the meta then, right? You get your MX9, your Bison, probably the two guns that can compete, but the big thing that really deterred them was again, if you're trying to rush and play submachine gun play, you're running into some asshole with a shorty, and that just really eliminated a lot of
Like,
some of that aggressive play.
I think even that's kind of like it's not enough. You're already making the Chinese teams play a totally different rule set. Competitively, they're playing a different game. So you're taking them from their game and then you're putting them on the global game, giving them the global rules. You're already making one group have to change shit. And that's we don't know how immense that's going to be. We don't know how the Chinese teams are going to look. We don't know if they're going to stomp everybody, if they're going to adapt, and we just don't know. But you're already forcing them to make change. Why not fucking force everybody to make change? Why not change everything, to an extent and really fine tune just a little bit of this stuff while we have 3 fucking months left? If they were to come out in 2 weeks and say, hey, these are the updated rules for all the stage 5 teams for the rest of the tournament. Global, it's going to be 5v5. Here are your maps. Here are your whatever. We're doing away with this. We're adding this into it. Or we're pulling some of this from the Chinese. We're pulling some of this from the global version, and putting everybody on a level playing field. Yeah, extend the fucking games from 150 to 250. Like, what does it fucking cost you to do that? You'll have more time on broadcast. You'll actually give teams the ability to compete. You refuse to change the spawns, so just if you don't give a fuck about the spawns, give them more time to deal with them.
Right.
Like you're already changing the game from 9 to 6 for the Chinese. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep Dom however it is you want to do. It's not properly playable, but don't just force one group to make change. And I'm surprised that I haven't heard any of those guys. Maybe because they're just not on Discord or they're not on the same social media outlets as we are. But I could imagine if I was a Chinese coach or if I was a Chinese player, that I'd be bitching a lot. I'd be bitching a lot. Like, why do we have to change? Why can't they change? So it just doesn't. I don't know. There's so much. There's so much ways that they can kind of shake everything up, and they still have the time to do so. That if they don't do it, and they just kind of force it on one group, it will be controversial and it will be not ideal from the spectator perspective as well. Like, quite honestly, I don't even know if I enjoy watching competitive COD right now on mobile. Just straight up. I look for the teams and that's it. But I can't sit down and actually watch a game and appreciate it for what it is because of a lot of the state of what things are. And you really want the people that are competing for all this amount of money to really do that. So I don't know.
Right.
So much things that they could think of, but there's so much time for them to change right now. And if they can, they should. Just bite the bullet. Say, hey, I'm wrong, and do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on a lot of that being said. So, the big one is, yeah, China's changing their entire rule set to match ours. That's definitely a big thing. I've been obviously one that has mentioned time and time again that 150 hardpoint is just not enough time. How many times in
No,
Mobile
it's
Mayhem
not.
have we seen teams come back after losing a P1, P2? If you hard lose P1, P2, that's like 100 points. That's 2/3 of the game gone on potentially a 5 hardpoint map. So I
I
just
mean,
don't think it
firing
gives.
range, Hackney Yard, like go back and look at game one, Hackney Yard Tribe versus Mayhem.
Yeah.
Look at the end of that game where we almost won, we almost took the lead. Like
And then
there's
Marshy
not
makes the
enough
miracle
time.
play.
And then Marshy comes in front of the back, he steals the map. But it's like in a 250 you don't get that, so you can fuck up in the beginning,
Right.
and the game's not done. But here, I've seen firing range go to 2 hills, 3 hills, done. Game's over first, the first American hill. If it's not over American, you're certainly getting shit on trailer, because it's just whatever. Crossfire, we have Crossfire as a map. Every hill is a 60. So if you're rotating, like look at what we did to Explicit. Explicit had literally no fucking opportunity in the world ever to get time on us with the rotations and stuff, and it was 150. It was effortless. The game was 5 minutes long, 6 minutes long. That's not a game of hardpoint. That's not a game of hardpoint at all. Give teams opportunities to play the game out. If it's supposed to be competitive, make it competitive. Increase the time. It costs you nothing to do that. When I asked Talon, the guy from Activision, I think his name is like Mugaboo or whatever the hell his name is now, Mug something. He changed his name. But Talon, when I asked him, I was like, why won't you guys just do that? He said he said that it was just too big of a change to make so close to the tournaments for the formats. The tournaments coming Masters and stuff like that was right around the corner. Like, okay, Well, now everybody's waiting for the same tournament. We're not having all these mini tournaments going on in the same region. All the regions, we know who's coming out from every region. Now it's just one more tournament left for the year. One more that's official that matters. And you've got time. So make a change and make something that's kind of like concise among everybody. You can do that. I just don't think that they will.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to round it out for the night. I feel like we got a lot that we talked about here tonight. Obviously, recap a little bit at the beginning of Stage 4. We talked a little bit about Mobile Mayhem Girls going on, a little bit about maybe what we can expect next Mobile Mayhem, as well as then hopefully things we can look forward to for Stage 5. Obviously, guys, not this weekend, but the following weekend we'll have the Stage 4 for Europe going on. If you guys are interested, you could join me on my channel here. We are going to be doing a watch party for that. Make sure you guys come by as well on Tuesday. We're going to have week 2 kicking off for Mobile Mayhem Girls. There's a lot of teams that are really starting to stir up the scene a little bit over there. Specifically, again, looking at your NYX, your Honeybees, who I think actually had a pretty cool roster change today. But we'll talk about that later. And then ARP as well was looking really solid. So hopefully we'll get to see some exciting action on Tuesday as well as Thursday next week. Tuesday, I believe we're going to have the Spawn EU. And I think our guest for next week, Zim, for the Spawn NA, I think it's going to be Aerith. So that should be a pretty fun one as well.
Dope.
And yeah, I'm excited for it. Hopefully you guys are all excited for it out there as well. Anything you want to say before we go, Zim?
No, I mean, I'm really excited for people to kind of continue to watch the different stuff that Mobile Mayhem has coming out. Obviously, there's lots of stuff that we don't know about yet, but there's always spicy shit happening in the off season between the main broadcasts. So pay attention to it. Definitely come when Aerith's here. She's going to be super exciting to talk to, and yeah, have a good night.
All right, take it easy, guys. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of The Spawn, and we'll see you next time.